Owen Vance sat inside the polished, glass-walled boardroom of Sterling Innovations, locking eyes with the woman who had just brushed aside 20 years of unwavering dedication with an icy, mocking grin. At 48, he was the very architect behind the proprietary systems that kept the entire company running, yet his humble ask for an 8% pay increase was being treated like a punchline. Victoria Sterling reclined in her leather chair, her expensive jewelry clinking as she released a sharp, condescending chuckle that sliced through the tense silence. Maybe at your age, Owen, you're simply falling behind. Perhaps early retirement suits you better than a raise. She sneered, completely blind to the storm she was stirring. A wave of cold composure settled over Owen as he calmly folded his glasses and slid them into his breast pocket. Realizing the loyalty he'd given this company was a courtesy that no longer carried any weight. Without uttering another word, he rose, grabbed his briefcase, and walked out, leaving Victoria to bask in what she wrongly believed was a clean win. Once outside in the crisp autumn air of the parking lot, Owen pulled out his phone and dialed a number he'd kept saved privately for 3 years. The voice that answered on the second ring belonged to Harrison Thorne, the formidable head of Thorne Dynamics and Victoria's fiercest business rival. "Harrison, it's Owen. I'm officially available if that offer to rebuild your global distribution platform still stands," he said evenly. Harrison didn't pause for even a second, instantly offering a contract worth triple Owen's old salary, along with complete creative authority over a highly classified new software venture. The following morning, Victoria found Owen's resignation letter resting on her polished mahogany desk and tossed it straight into the shredder with a careless shrug, convinced he was nothing more than an obsolete employee easily swapped out for cheaper, younger hires, never realizing he held the master encryption keys to their entire supply chain. Over the next 3 weeks, Owen worked relentlessly from a penthouse office at Thorne Dynamics, channeling 2 decades of expertise into a groundbreaking system codenamed Project Prometheus, engineered to streamline shipping routes and cut operating costs by 40%, instantly rendering Sterling Innovations' outdated framework irrelevant. Meanwhile, Victoria began noticing cracks forming in her business, as several long-term, high-value clients went unusually quiet during contract renewal season. She pressed her panicked executives for answers, unaware that Owen's new platform was already woven into the operations of her greatest competitor. Harrison hosted a major press event to unveil Project Prometheus, proudly introducing Owen as its lead architect and newly appointed executive vice president of technology. Watching the broadcast from her office, Victoria felt her chest tighten with dread as she recognized the very man she'd so carelessly cast aside weeks earlier. "This is nothing more than a temporary hiccup. Our old system is still fully functional," she insisted to her nervous board during an emergency session, not understanding that Owen hadn't sabotaged anything. He'd simply built something so far superior that her existing platform had become a relic overnight. Within days, Sterling Innovations stock began a brutal, unstoppable freefall as major shipping clients abandoned their contracts to sign with Thorne Dynamics instead. Victoria's panic peaked when her IT director warned that their aging servers were buckling under the strain of departing accounts, and only Owen understood the core logic needed to repair the mainframe without collapsing the whole system. Too stubborn to accept defeat, Victoria ordered her legal team to file a baseless multi-million-dollar lawsuit accusing Owen of stealing intellectual property. But Owen had foreseen this move years in advance, ensuring every line of code at Thorne Dynamics was written from the ground up in an entirely different programming language. When the lawsuit reached his desk, he simply smiled and forwarded it to Harrison's legal team, who fired back within hours with a crushing defamation and antitrust countersuit that drained Victoria's remaining resources and made clear she was fighting a battle already lost. By the 2-month mark, Sterling Innovations stood on the brink of bankruptcy, and her own board demanded she swallow her pride and negotiate a buyout in person. With her empire collapsing, she arranged an emergency meeting at a neutral downtown hotel conference room, expecting to face Harrison Thorne, but instead found Owen seated alone at the head of the long mahogany table, composed and immaculate in a tailored charcoal suit, his eyes calm behind his sleek black-rimmed glasses, radiating the quiet confidence of a man who had completely turned the tables on the person who once underestimated him. "Sit down, Victoria. Let's talk about the terms of your surrender, since you were the one who suggested I consider retirement," Owen said, his tone smooth and free of malice. Victoria's hands shook as she gripped her briefcase, the bitter irony of her own words echoing painfully as she sat across from him. Still clinging to her corporate pride, she demanded top dollar for her remaining assets and client contracts. But Owen simply slid a single page across the table showing a valuation far below what the company had been worth just 2 months prior. "This is insulting. I refuse to hand over my life's work for scraps to a man I built from nothing," she snapped, her voice trembling with fury and desperation. "Take it or leave it," he replied calmly, reminding her that by morning the banks would foreclose, leaving her buried in debt with nothing left to her name. Realizing she had no leverage remaining, Victoria broke down, staring at the pen in her hand as the weight of her own arrogance finally crushed her resolve. With a trembling signature, she signed over full ownership of Sterling Innovations to Thorne Dynamics, ending her career in complete disgrace. After she signed, Owen took the document back gently and looked her in the eye, offering one final piece of wisdom she would carry for the rest of her life. Never confuse someone's quiet loyalty for weakness, because the people who help build your empire are often the very ones who know exactly how to take it apart. Stepping away from the window, Owen felt the heavy burden of the past few months finally lift as he gazed out at the bustling office floor beyond his door, realizing true success was never about money or titles, but about building a place where hard work and integrity were rewarded instead of exploited. The next morning, he stood on the trading floor of the newly merged company to announce a sweeping initiative guaranteeing fair pay and full benefits for every employee, regardless of rank. As thunderous applause from hundreds of relieved workers filled the grand atrium, Owen knew he had built something that would protect families long after his own career came to an end. Standing at the height of his success, he took a deep, satisfied breath, finally at peace with the difficult road that had brought him to this moment of complete triumph. If this story of resilience and justice reminded you to never let anyone undervalue your worth, show your support by liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and sharing your thoughts in the comments below.